Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Baseball today, September 28th. Frank Stanfield not alongside Scott White. We have a special guest on today. More on that in a second. Just want to give a big congrats to everybody who won their fantasy baseball leagues. It was a wild, wacky, and fun abbreviated 2020 season that featured lots of twists and turns. If you managed to pull it off, give yourself a pat on the back between all of the COVID-related postponements that we had and injuries. I mean, this season was an absolutely wild one. So honestly, if you came out on top, give yourself a pat on the back because it was a crazy, crazy season. Today on the show, we're going to do this a little bit different. We're doing a wild card round betting preview. We're taking a look at some futures as well, including, some World Series predictions, some AL, NL outright winners, some long shot bets. No, we are not becoming a betting podcast. So if you're listening to this, you are in the right place. It's the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast feed. But Scott and I are still recording like normal, twice a week in the offseason. I'm actually going to record with him later tonight on Monday, and that'll be in your feed early Tuesday morning. But we just thought that we'd give you guys a little bit extra content throughout the MLB postseason. If you want to throw a few shekels around, if you want to throw some bets, which brings me to our guest, John Bowman, who is a statistical analyst for CBS and works with Sportsline, giving out MLB and NHL picks. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at jbowman, BOLLMAN 11. This is literally our first time talking, John, so I'm looking forward to it. How's life? How are you doing? How's everything going?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you for having me, Frank. Looking forward to the podcast, to be honest. Excited to talk about some baseball.
Yeah, this time of year, we were talking about it before we even got started. And look, it's unique in that 2020 is just a crazy year in general, but everything that's going on. I mean, we have the NFL regular season in full swing. We have the MLB postseason starting up like normal, but we have like the NBA finals going on. Like, it's just a crazy time. And, for the first time in a while, it kind of feels like a normal year with all the sports going on. So from that sense, I'm looking forward to this. And I'm looking forward to postseason baseball because it is one of my favorite times of the year. Every pitch counts. And I just think that this one is going to be even crazier. Look, we have 16 teams. It's something we've never seen before. But before we jump into that, John, give everyone a little bit of background on yourself. How did you get into this field? What is it that you do exactly for CBS as well? What'd you think of the 2020 baseball season? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, so my name's John Bowman. I was born and raised in Bethesda, Maryland. I played baseball through varsity in high school, but nobody really wants a slow defensive shortstop in Division I. So I decided I didn't want baseball to determine what school I went to. So I went to Tulane University undergrad, majored in public health, and then went to the graduate school and majored in biostatistics. And that's really where I started my baseball/statistics background. I worked as a quantitative analyst for the Tulane baseball team for a little bit. And then after that went into player development and high performance for the Blue Jays. And that's what got me here.
Say that again. What was that you do with the Blue Jays?
Player development and high performance departments. So I worked in both departments, working on a lot of player development, player analysis, player plans, as well as high performance. So kind of just like sports science.
All right, so you guys can already tell by listening if you're watching us on YouTube as well. Like, John is 100% smarter than me. Like, there's no chance. But but no, it sounds like you have, a pretty interesting background there, and you've done some work with the Blue Jays. So, man, I am looking forward to this. So you're into all the, WOBA, XFIP, all the kind of crazy advanced analytical tools for baseball.
Yeah, exactly. I'll try to dumb it down a little bit. I use OPS more to try to interact with more fans, if that makes sense, or not lose the interest of more fans would be a better way to say it.
Hey, man, look, don't hold back here because that's basically what we do every single day for an hour out of the day is we just talk about all the StatCast data, expected stats, WOBA, XFIP. We just throw it around all the time. So, feel free to just do what you would normally do. Don't hold back here on the show. All right, so the MLB playoffs, let's jump right in. This is not what we're used to. There are 16 teams that made the playoffs here in the 2020 season. They're obviously trying something new here. And the wild card round, which is more like the NBA and the NHL, where we have 8 teams from the American League and 8 teams from the National League that made the playoffs this season. The American League wild card round starts on Tuesday, September 29th, whereas the NL wildcard round starts on Wednesday, September 30th. The first round, of course, is 8 best-of-3 matchups in this round, which will be played at the higher seeds' home ballpark. So let's take a look at what the matchups are. In the American League, we have the Toronto Blue Jays, who are traveling to the Tampa Bay Rays. We have the Yankees traveling to Cleveland. We have the Houston Astros traveling to the Minnesota Twins. The Chicago White Sox traveling to the Oakland A's. The Milwaukee Brewers traveling to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Cardinals traveling to the Padres. The Marlins traveling to the Chicago Cubs. And the Cincinnati Reds traveling to the Atlanta Braves. John, before we actually break down the matchups, what do you think of this postseason setup, the expansion of more teams making the playoffs this year, and the fact that the first round will be played at the higher seeds home ballpark, and then after that, the NLDS, the ALDS, and beyond will be played in a neutral site? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it'll be tough this year, especially for the favorites, teams like the Rays and the Dodgers, who wouldn't normally have to go through this 3-game wild card series, are having to go through it. And teams that are pretty deep in their rotation, once again, like the Dodgers, who have 4 or 5 legitimate playoff starters, it's going to be tough for them because they only have 3 games to show off all this power.
Yeah, no, it's crazy in that it's such a small sample size of just 3 games. I mean, it's a best-of-3 series. Like, anything can happen in that time. I mean, that's why it's so crazy. But I guess if there's ever a season to try out something new, it's here in an abbreviated 60-game season. I mentioned that after the first round, the wild card round, that they will be moving to neutral sites. So the NLDS will be played in Globe Life Field, in Arlington, Texas, and in Minute Maid Park in Houston. Of course, that's a National League side because we don't want the Houston Astros, if they advance, to be playing in Minute Maid Park, of course. And then the ALDS will be played in Petco Park in San Diego and Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. The NLCS will be in Globe Life Field. The ALCS will be in Petco Park. And the World Series will be played in Globe Life Field, which, of course, opened in 2020. So they're trying to highlight that venue. In terms of advantages, who might be at a big disadvantage here, the one thing that I noticed, the Yankees were, one of the best teams at home this year, as they always are. They were 22-9 at home. They were 11-18 on the road. So they're playing, if they need to play 3 games in the wild card round, all 3 of those will be on the road in Cleveland. The Twins might have the best advantage in the first round, but if they go beyond that, it seems like they will be at a disadvantage. They had the best home record in baseball this year at 24-7. They were 12-17 on the road. And then, surprise, surprise, the Houston Astros were 20-8 at home. Not like they've ever done anything weird, banned in Houston before. They were 9-23 on the road. So, of course, they are at a disadvantage in the wild card round. In terms of trends, betting trends, the most relevant trend that I found was, according to an article on WagerBop, if you want to bet MLB postseason single games, over the past 10 years, the money line and the run line records for home underdogs, are both profitable. 48-47 on the money line, which is a 50.5% winning rate, and then 57-38 on the run line. So that's like when you see a little plus 1.5 for those who are just kind of jumping into betting. It means that the team that you bet on has to either lose by 1 run or less or win the game. So home dogs have been very profitable there, 60% over the past 10 years, which automatically, John, gets me thinking about like Cleveland, because I'm a Yankee fan. You see the stuff behind me. I have the Derek Jeter fathead on the wall. I have some Yankee paraphernalia. And Cleveland are going to likely be home dogs. Well, they are home dogs for the entire series, but likely going to be home dogs throughout each game. And they have fantastic pitching. So I thought that this trend was interesting. And as much as I love the Yankees, I think Cleveland can make some noise here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The Indians' bullpen is ranked 5th in the league. We've got a 3.53 ERA. So this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, in the sense that the Indians are stacked with their pitchers, both starting pitchers and relievers. They've got Aaron Civale, Tristan McKenzie, probably won't even start in the wild card series. They could definitely, they will most likely come in probably game 2 or game 3 if we get there. But I think this series, a 3-game series, kind of takes away from the strengths of the Indians, to be honest.
Takes away the strength. Yeah, I mean, they do have one of the deepest rotations, although I know Aaron Civale got blown up over the weekend, which might have hurt some people's fantasy baseball championships. Someone that I liked all season. Didn't really see that one coming. But, yeah, I mean, even if you just look at the top 3 that they have, might be the best top three in the postseason. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But let's break down each series. We'll start off with the game that will be played first, and that is on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The Houston Astros traveling to the Minnesota Twins. That's the number 6 seed Astros at the number 3 seed Twins. The series price here, this is according to the DraftKings Sportsbook. The Twins are a minus 159 favorite. Houston is plus 130. The last 10 games entering the postseason, the Twins were 6-4 straight up. The Astros were 4-6. Rotations here, I think you give the edge to the Minnesota Twins, Kenta Maeda and Jose Barrios. Then they have a combination of Michael Pineda and Rich Hill to round out their rotation if it goes to a third game. Zach Greinke is going first, but really hasn't been great over the past month or so. The underlying numbers look much better than the actual numbers, but he hasn't been good. And then they have, a crew of Lance McCullers, Framber Valdez, Jose Urquidy, and Christian Javier. Looking at the lineups, I think very similar. They're 14th. The Twins are 14th in WOBA. The Houston Astros were 18th in WOBA. I still think that the Astros are probably the more talented group overall, but is Nelson Cruz healthy? He had a knee injury that he came back from over the weekend. And overall, the Houston Astros, they have a lot of talent, but a lot of people in their lineup let us down this year, outside of really George Springer and Kyle Tucker. I think the bullpen advantage for the Minnesota Twins. John, how are you breaking down this series between the Twins and the Houston Astros?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think first I would want to look at the starters. I would agree with you where the Twins do have a slight advantage, but the Astros are sneaky good with their rotation. Lance McCullers is on 17 2/3 earned runless streak. He did allow 4 unearned runs 2 starts ago, but this is in his last 3 starts. And ironically enough, the Astros lost all 3 of those games. Lance McCullers has been very good. Jose Urquidy, we know from last year that he was very good in the playoffs. He's never faced the Twins, but he allowed 1 run in 10 innings in the playoffs last season. We could go back to Jose Barrios. Jose Barrios has been very good recently. I think I would give the advantage to the Twins here for sure. And then ironically enough, OPS against lefties. So the Twins have a 658 OPS against lefties. It's ranked 27th in the league. The Astros have a 702 OPS against lefties. That's ranked 22nd in the league. Both of these teams were top 10 against lefties last year. So I thought this was very interesting. And I thought it was kind of interesting, for, especially looking at Michael Pineda, because I thought the Twins might start Rich Hill to put a lefty in against the Astros.
Yeah, they definitely can, and it makes sense. That might be why the Astros, if they get to a second or third game, I guess Framber Valdez, is a lefty, obviously, and the Twins have struggled. And that was a stat we brought up all season long, that the Twins, as good as their lineup was, that they struggled against left-handed pitching. So, maybe that's a reason why the Astros would turn to a Framber Valdez and maybe why the Twins would turn to a Rich Hill if they get to a third game. I think that the bullpen is the advantage for the Minnesota Twins. Taylor Rogers has been rocky here and there. Sergio Romo, the guy throws 83 miles per hour, but for, you watch a slider, it's just fantastic. So for the most part, their bullpen has been really good. And they have some other names in there like Tyler Duffy and Trevor May who have been great all season. The Astros have really struggled in that department all season long. Once Roberto Osuna went down, Ryan Presley was okay. He was not the dominant Ryan Presley that we've seen before. If I had to handicap this specific series, I would lay the minus 159 with the Minnesota Twins, but it's not something I love.
Yeah, and it was kind of tough for Presley in that situation too, because the Astros had so many rookies in their bullpen that he kind of had to carry the whole burden for them. So it was a little bit of an unfair position for Presley. But no, I agree with you, and Framber Valdez as well. Maybe both teams are kind of holding their lefties back in case they take the lead in game 1 or game 2, so they can put in either Rich Hill or Framber Valdez to save that game. So I would agree. I like the money on the Twins here. The Astros have lost 3 straight games, and they have not looked very good. And I'm very worried about the back end of their pitching.
All right, let's move on to the White Sox and the Oakland A's, the number 7 seed White Sox, who really just faltered down the stretch. They were in the lead for the American League Central basically all season, and then they just really scuffled 2-8 straight up in their last 10 games. They're going out to Oakland, where the A's are minus 122 favorites in the series, according to the DraftKings Sportsbook. The White Sox are plus 100. First game is on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Rotations you're looking at here for the A's. You just have a collection of who's who. And really, this is just what the Oakland A's do everywhere, right? It's like their lineup, you don't necessarily have a star in it, but they just kind of piece it together, and it's the same thing with their rotation. You have Chris Bassett, and you have Sean Manaea, and Mike Fiers, and Jesus Luzardo, who, we were hoping would kind of step in as an ace this season, but he was still kind of inconsistent, which isn't crazy considering how young he is. For the White Sox, they actually do have a legitimate ace in Lucas Giolito, who threw a no-hitter in 2020. Dallas Keuchel, who, while the underlying numbers say might have been a little bit lucky this year, he was very good for the Chicago White Sox. And then you're probably looking at a combination of like Dane Dunning or Dylan Cease if we get to a third game. In terms of the lineups, the White Sox were 8th in weighted on base average all season, while the Oakland A's were 16th. But I will say, the White Sox, part of the reason why they scuffled so much down the stretch is because their lineup kind of slowed up, and specifically Luis Robert, who just got off to this fantastic start, and now he's just swinging and missing at everything. The White Sox are still very deep. They have Jose Abreu, obviously, and Tim Anderson and Yasmani Grandal. Eloy Jimenez also banged up, dealing with a mid-foot sprain. Oakland, mentioned, they just kind of pieced together. Sean Murphy's red hot for that team. Jake Lamb has been great for them since Matt Chapman went down. And the bullpens are both very good. They're both top 7 in ERA in baseball, but Oakland is first in ERA with a 2.72 ERA. So, John, if you are handicapping this series, the White Sox and the A's, who are you looking at here?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I've actually got the White Sox winning the series. We've got Sean Manaea, Chris Bassett, and maybe Frankie Montas in the rotation for the A's. I think they've got to win one of these early games. The White Sox have an 887 OPS, good for second in the league against lefties. So they could hit Manaea. Manaea's pitched 7 straight games, going at least 5 innings and allowing 3 or fewer runs. So he has finally found it since he struggled to begin the season. Chris Bassett is 2-1 with a 3.04 and 4 starts against the White Sox this season, or 4 starts against the White Sox in his career. Sorry. And he's 5-2 with a 2.29 this year. He's been lights out for the A's this season. So I think that I like the White Sox in this series. It's around to pick them right now. Like you said, the A's have the best bullpen in the league, but the White Sox aren't that bad either. So, and the White Sox bullpen features a lefty and Crotchet from the left side who goes over 100 miles an hour. Colomé has been absolutely lights out since, I think, 2 years back. He's blown 1 save, I believe, something like that. So I like the White Sox in this one.
Yeah, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, I'm still waiting for Alex Colomé to fall off, but it just never happens. So the guy just makes me look absolutely dumb every single season. But another fine year for Colomé. He had a 0.81 ERA in 21 appearances for the White Sox this season, albeit his xFIP was 4.26. So I'm waiting for the regression to come at some point, but it hasn't happened for Alex Colomé yet. We're 2 for 2. I'm going to lean with the White Sox here at plus 100. I think that they have a legitimate horse in Lucas Giolito. I think that their lineup is deeper, but I will say it's dangerous betting against Oakland because they just find a way to win, and they do have a fantastic bullpen. So not fully confident here, but a lean on the White Sox at plus 100. The Blue Jays, number 8 seed, your Toronto Blue Jays, John, traveling to the Tampa Bay Rays, who are the number 1 seed in the American League. Tampa Bay is minus 200 for the series. Toronto is plus 162. First pitch Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Heads up this season, Tampa Bay won 4 of 7 games against the Blue Jays. The final 10 games of the season, Tampa Bay was 8-2. The Blue Jays were 6-4. You look at the rotations, the Rays arguably have the best 3-man rotation in the league. Maybe like Cleveland, the Dodgers are up there with them as well. But they have Blake Snell, they have Tyler Glasnow, and they have Charlie Morton. And then for the Blue Jays, they have their ace in Hyunjin Ryu. But how much do you trust Taijuan Walker and Matt Shoemaker once you get past that first game for the Blue Jays? The lineups here, Toronto, 12th in weighted on base average, Tampa Bay, 13th. So not really far off here. Tampa Bay really reminds me a lot of Oakland, where they just kind of piece together this lineup. They have a lot of platoons, a lot of split situations, but Brandon Lau has, been the breakout for them this season. Toronto, everyone talks about Bo Bichette and Vlad Jr., but they actually have a sneaky deep lineup. Teoscar Hernandez, 16 home runs and 919 OPS this season. Lourdes Gurriel, an 882 OPS. I mean, their first 5-6 hitters in this lineup are all legitimate and I think really, really good hitters. You look at the bullpens, huge advantage for Tampa Bay here. Third in ERA. Toronto is just 24th. John, how are you looking at this series? The Blue Jays traveling to the Rays.
Yeah, the Blue Jays lineup has been very legitimate this year. And like you said, the top 6 hitters, they're all interchangeable too. You've got Kevin Biggio, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez. Travis Shaw's been hitting well, the middle of the lineup too. So the Blue Jays lineup is pretty solid. Like you said, though, the starting pitching is a little iffy after Ryu and Walker. They'll be piecing it together if they do get past 2 games, but I don't know if they'll even do that with the way that the Rays have been playing and this Rays rotation. Blake Snell's 4-2 with a 3.24. He only allowed 2 earned runs in 7 2/3 innings against the Blue Jays this season. Neither Glasnow nor Walker has faced the other team this season or in their careers. This season. And then after Shoemaker, you've got Nate Pearson, who can come out of the bullpen, and I've seen his stuff live. It blaze up, especially out of the bullpen. I've seen him throw 103 live before. That kid is unreal. But then you go back to the Rays, and they've got Ryan Yarborough. They've got Nick Anderson. I think it was 8 different guys with saves this season. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's something like that. And I think that's where the Rays will win this series. Is they have a 3.37 ERA. Good for third out of the bullpen, good for third in the league, while the Blue Jays have a 4.71 ERA, which is 24th in the league.
Yeah, so huge advantage there for the Tampa Bay Rays. I think Tampa Bay is going to win this series, but the thing, I wouldn't bet it because minus 200, there's not a lot of value there, and it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, at least based on how they've played straight up this year. The Rays won 4 out of 7 games. That means, okay, Toronto at least has a chance here. So if I'm laying 200, I have to be pretty confident that they're going to win. So I think Tampa Bay will win this series, but would I actually lay the 200? That's a no for me, John.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And the Blue Jays are a very sneaky team for upset. They have nothing to play for right now. They're just playing. They're having fun. So I would not be surprised if they do upset the Rays.
All right, the Yankees traveling to the Twins. Spoke about this one a little bit, and man, when I saw the final standings as a Yankee fan, was not excited that we have to play the Cleveland Indians. We, as if, I'm a member of the Yankees. I'm not, but, let's just imagine that I am for a second. The Yankees for the series are minus 134 favorites. The Cleveland Indians are plus 110. First game Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Last 10 games of the season, Cleveland 8-2 straight up. The Yankees 4-6 straight up. You look at the rotations. Look, if you want aces, you've come to the right place. Shane Bieber going up against Garrett Cole in game 1. It is going to be fantastic to watch. And Cole really, really turned it on. I believe it was his final 4 starts with Kyle Higashioka as his catcher, where he really just took off. I think he lowered his ERA from 3.91 to 2.84 over those final 4 starts, and it seems like they have a legitimate connection between him and Kyle Higashioka. And I actually trust Tanaka. I think Tanaka shows up very well in the postseason for the Yankees. But if they get to that third game, you're looking at J Happ, Jordan Montgomery, Davy Garcia, some kind of combination of maybe 2 of those, maybe all of them. I think that we could see 2 innings out of each of them. And then for Cleveland, look, Bieber, Carrasco, arguably the AL Cy Young in Bieber and comeback player of the year in Carrasco. Zach Plesac, one of the biggest breakouts in 2020. The lineups, huge advantage for the Yankees here. I think that's very obvious. They are 5th in weighted on base average. Cleveland just 26th. But I will say this. The Yankees strike out a ton. And this is not the rotation you want to go up against if you strike out a lot. And we've seen this be their downfall in the past, where it's boomer bust, home run or bust, home run or strike, 3 true outcomes, whatever it might be for the Yankees here. And Jose Ramirez is on fire for Cleveland. He batted .366 with 10 home runs in September, and you know how hot this guy can get when he gets on one of these stretches. So I know it sounds like I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, the way that I'm talking this up, but I'm actually just a very pessimistic Yankee fan. And then for bullpens, you would think the Yankees have one of the best, but they scuffled this year. 16th in ERA, Cleveland 5th with Brad Hand and James Karinchak. John, what are you thinking here? Because even as a Yankee fan, I'm being realistic, and my early lean is Cleveland plus 110.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the series of the first round. And like you said, Jose Ramirez is on absolute fire right now. And it seems like he's always up in the big situation too. He's always in the situation to get the big hit. But like you said, I think Cleveland very obviously has the starting rotation on their side. But once you get, and then the Yankees have Cole up top, and Tanaka's been much better recently. But then you get towards Hap, and then you've got a lot of relievers that are very good. But how many innings can they go? You've got Britton, Ottavino, Chapman at the end of your bullpen, but who's going to fill up those middle innings for you guys? So I think that's a big question. And for the Indians, their lineup has not been very good this season. They're ranked 24th in OPS against righties and 24th against OPS against lefties, but that's not their strength. Their bullpen, they have a 3.53 ERA. They're ranked 5th in the league. Like you said, the Yankees actually haven't been that good from the bullpen. So I think with the Indians lineup, unless the Yankees can hit homers, then I think the Indians will take it.
It's painful, man. It is painful to say, but if I am handicapping this series and looking at it objectively, I actually would bet on Cleveland at plus 110. That's according to the DraftKings Sportsbook. And that's it for the American League wildcard round at this point. We're going to take a quick break. I do want to remind everyone, yes, Tuesday's podcast, Scott White and myself are back. We're doing the 2020 Fantasy Baseball Season Awards. Our MVP, our least valuable player, breakout player of the year, waiver wire edition of the year. We'll have that. Make sure that you're watching us on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasybaseball today, and subscribe. When we come back, we will look at the National League wildcard round. We'll do that here, Fantasy Baseball Today. Let's move on to the National League. We have the number 7 seed Cincinnati Reds at the number 2 Atlanta Braves. The Braves minus 137 on the series price. Cincinnati plus 113. First game Wednesday at noon Eastern time. The last 10 games of the season. Cincinnati 7-3 straight up. The Atlanta Braves 6-4 straight up. This is a classic example of pitching versus hitting. Who will prevail? The Atlanta Braves, number 1 in weighted on base average this season in terms of their lineup, and I would argue the deepest lineup in baseball, even deeper than the Los Angeles Dodgers, with Freddie Freeman, Marcell Ozuna, Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Ozzie Albies, Travis d'Arnaud just had a breakout year. Well, actually a follow-up to his breakout 2019 where we didn't know if it was real or not, but it looks real. The rotations, of course, huge advantage for Cincinnati. Trevor Bauer, Luis Castillo, and Sonny Gray up top, going up against Max Fried, who's great and National League Cy Young candidate, but once you get past him, you have a rookie in Ian Anderson, and you have Kyle Wright, who is just kind of like meh to me. And you look at the bullpens, Atlanta, 3.50 ERA, Cincinnati, 4.53. They did trade for Archie Bradley halfway through the season, so that should help. But if you're just breaking it down, lineup advantage, Atlanta, bullpen advantage, Atlanta, starting rotation advantage, huge for the Cincinnati Reds. John, who do you like here between the Braves and the Reds?
Yeah, I'm actually on the Reds here. They're my upset of the first round, and I really like them. They could even go further than just a divisional series, to be honest. And like you said, this is your classic hitting versus pitching matchup. The Braves, a few years ago, if you told them that their rotation in the playoffs would have been Fried, Anderson, Wright, I think they would have been happy, but I don't think they would have known that this would have been the exact performances that they were going to expect. Ian Anderson is 3-2 with a 1.95 this season, but we can't forget that you only made a few starts. He's still a rookie. This is a small sample size as well, so you can't get blinded by those numbers. And he's facing Luis Castillo, who's been on absolute fire. Trevor Bauer is a Cy Young candidate, and Sonny Gray, we know he's been on the 6 hits or fewer streak for who knows how long now. I think he's continued it, but although there were a few poor performances that kept that streak going, but I like the Reds here for sure.
Yeah, look, it's hard because you don't want to bet against the Braves lineup, but if there's anyone that can shut it down, I mean, it would be Bauer, Castillo, Sonny Gray, as we've seen out of them all season long. And I will say, like, the Reds ranked 17th in weighted on base average as a team this season, but I think that they are better than that. We did have some underperformance, some injuries. Mike Moustakas was out for a little bit of time. Nick Castellanos got off to a great start, but then really slowed down for that team. Joey Votto, been a little bit inconsistent, but obviously he's a little bit older now. I'm with you, man. I'm going to go with Cincinnati, plus 113. I think that there is legitimate value there. Braves lineup is scary for sure, but I don't think that I can trust in Ian Anderson, while he has looked great, and Kyle Wright once we get past that first game for the Atlanta Braves. Moving on to the Marlins at the Cubs. Number 6 seed Miami Marlins at the number 3 Chicago Cubs. Cubs minus 177 for the series price. The Marlins are plus 144. That is according to the DraftKings Sportsbook. First game Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Final 10 games, the Cubs 4-6 straight up. The Marlins 5-5 straight up. Rotations, advantage. Cubs, they have a legitimate workhorse ace in Yu Darvish. Kyle Hendricks really broke out this year with his improved curveball usage. John Lester kind of is what he is at this point, but not a bad veteran to have as your third starting pitcher. And I think the Marlins have a lot of talent, but the thing is they're all young. It's Pablo Lopez, Sandy Alcantara, Sixto Sanchez. How will they perform under pressure? I think that is a huge question mark for this series. You look at the lineups, the Cubs, very disappointing this year, 19th in weighted on base average, the Marlins 21st. You would have thought that there would be a bigger disparity between those two this season, but the Cubs, a lot of letdowns. Really, outside of Ian Happ and Jason Hayward, did not get the performances we were hoping out of Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant, who starting to heat up a little bit over the weekend here, but still not enough. And Javier Baez just, oh gosh, John. Javier Baez, for years, I did not buy into him as a fantasy asset because of his swing and miss. And he just strikes out so much. And this was the year where I was finally like, I'm not betting against Javier Baez anymore. Like, I'm buying in. And I drafted him everywhere, and he let me down. So, Javier Baez, you are dead to me. The Marlins lineup, it's scrappy. It's not great. I think Starling Marte somewhat legitimizes them. Their bullpens, neither are great, but a slight advantage to the Cubs. Craig Kimbrell in September had 8 appearances where he did not allow a run. And for the Marlins, they really just have Brandon Kinsler and not much else. I am leaning with the Cubs here. What are you thinking, John?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think this is a pretty easy Cubs pick. I do think if this series goes a little longer than the Cubs are, the longer the series goes, the more trouble the Cubs are in. The Marlins have a 775 OPS, which is actually good for 8th in the league against lefties, while the Cubs have a 619 OPS, good for 29th in the league against lefties. So unfortunately for the Marlins, they don't have that good lefty starter to put up against the Cubs. But if this series gets to the third game and we have Lester versus Sanchez, you better believe that Sixto is going to go in there just absolutely gassing it with nothing to expect. While Lester hasn't been very good recently, and the Marlins are pretty good against lefties. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would definitely pick the Cubs here, especially at this line, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes deep if the Marlins make a run at it.
No, I think that's a great point because John Lester, look, he is what he is. Sixto Sanchez did not perform great in his final 2 starts of the season, but again, he's a rookie. And how about all the starts before that where he looked fantastic? So I think you take all those things in mind. If I am betting on this, handicapping this series, I am looking at the Cubs minus 177. Even with, a decent price for the Marlins, I can't really get behind laying my money on them. So I will go with the Cubs minus 177. The Cardinals, number 5 seed at the Padres. The Padres, huge favorites here. And I don't really understand it. I'll explain why. The Padres minus 215, the Cardinals plus 172 for the series price. First pitch Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The Padres 5-5 straight up over their last 10 games of the season. The Cardinals 6-4. The Padres, on paper, should have been the series price, assuming that they had Mike Clevinger and assuming that Dinelson Lamet was healthy. But neither of those guys are healthy. Clevinger is dealing with a right elbow injury, and I believe it was John Heyman who reported we won't see him until the NLCS if they even make it that far. Dinelson Lamet left his last start on Friday against the Giants with right biceps tightness, which is what Clevinger was originally diagnosed with. So I'm worried about Lamet. They are hoping that he's ready to go. There's still no word if he's going to be ready to go for the first game. And I'm looking at the Cardinals, and they do have an ace in Jack Flaherty. They have Adam Wainwright, who's been there, done that, and he actually pitched great this season. Kwang Hyun Kim, who, say what you want about him, he also pitched great back in the rotation for the Cardinals. I love the Padres lineup, but Fernando Tatis has slowed down tremendously in September. Bullpens, it's a minimal advantage here for the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't think that the Cardinals lineup is good, by the way. I don't think that they're great. Dylan Carlson is coming around, the final week of the season. If I am handicapping, there's no chance that I can lay minus 215 with the San Diego Padres right now. given that the injuries that they have, John.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Cardinals are made for the playoffs. They're a playoff team. This organization is made for the playoffs. Their lineup isn't very good. They're 25th in the league in OPS against righties, 21st in the league in OPS against lefties. But they've got pitching. And I think the main thing to look at is their bullpen is ranked 10th in the league this year with a 4.00 ERA. They kind of underperformed. Like, they can pitch much better. And like you said, Jack Flaherty is an ace. Adam Wainwright in the playoffs in a deciding game 3. Also, if you're the Padres, and last year I told you that if Clevenger was healthy, Paddock wouldn't even be in the rotation for your starting wild card series, you would have told me I'm crazy. But here we are, Paddock's 4-5 with a 4.73. He could pitch in a deciding game 3, and honestly, I'm not too confident in him if he does.
Yeah, it was a letdown season for Chris Paddock, 2-pitch pitcher. We're waiting for that curveball to develop. He's mainly fastball changeup, something we talked about fantasy basically all season. What is wrong with Chris Paddock? And then, look, Zach Davies had a fantastic season for the Padres, but is it legitimate? He did change his pitch mix a little bit this year. He reminds me a lot of Kyle Hendricks. He throws like 87, 88 miles per hour with the fastball. Started using a cutter and a changeup more this season. But you have to ask yourself, is this Zach Davies actually legitimate? So I would pick the Padres to win this series, but if I'm actually handicapping it, there's no chance that I could lay minus 215 on the Padres. If I just wanted to bet on a crazy upset in the first round, plus 172, I don't think it's crazy. So that's actually the way that I would look with the St. Louis Cardinals. The final series we'll talk about. John, you wanted to get another word in there?
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to say is Jack Flaherty is actually 1-0 with a 1.10 ERA and 3 career starts against the Padres as well. So him facing Davies in that matchup could actually be the downfall of the Padres.
Absolutely, man. It's tough because, the Padres, they went all in. They made the trade for Clevenger, but these things happen. And, unfortunately, the injuries just come at the worst time for the Padres. They still have Manny Machado, fantastic lineup, but Tatis and Hosmer really, really slowed up in September. So I am worried about the San Diego Padres in that spot. The Milwaukee Brewers sneak into the playoffs, number 8 seed at the Los Angeles Dodgers, the World Series favorites, number 1 seed Dodgers. They are minus 315 on the series price. The Brewers are plus 242. First pitch Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Final 10 games of the season. The Dodgers 8-2 straight up. The Brewers 5-5. Huge advantage for the rotation here with the Dodgers. Walker Buehler going in game 1. Clayton Kershaw, which Clayton Kershaw will show up. Will we get Clayton Kershaw that was fantastic all season in 2020? Or will we see playoff Clayton Kershaw where he has struggled at times? They have that combination of Tony Gonsolin, Dustin May, Julio Urias. If they get to a third game, they could even, I read somewhere they could go with an opener. They could have like Brusdar Gratterall open the game and then have like one or a combination of those young pitchers come in for the Dodgers. And the Brewers, they might have had an outside shot if they had Corbin Burnes, but Burnes lands on the IL with an oblique strain in the final week of the season. I like Brandon Woodruff a lot, but once you get past him, you're looking at Brett Anderson, Josh Lindblom, Adrian Hauser. Lineups, huge advantage for the Dodgers here as well. Second in weighted on base average. The Brewers, big letdown season for Christian Yelich. Just the strikeout rate really ballooned this year and something we're not used to seeing out of him. The Brewers have a great 1-2 punch in the bullpen with Devin Williams and Josh Hader. But even with that, the Dodgers ERA was better in the bullpen, 2.74. It's a slam dunk. I don't know that I would actually lay the minus 315 because there's not a lot of value here, but I think the Dodgers probably sweep the first 2 games of the series, John.
Yeah, I completely agree. Around 300, minus 300 line is a little ridiculous. Not to the point where I would bet on the Brewers, but the Dodgers have the advantage in every facet of this game. We've got Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, Julio Urias, and then they've got Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin in their bullpen, Caleric Jansen at the end. I just think it's too much for the Brewers, honestly. And like you said, Corbin Burnes, the way he was pitching, that would have been their chance if he got in the starting rotation. But with him out, I really do not see them having a chance at all. Yeah,
we agree there. So recapping, some of the series bets that I like for the first round, some of the favorites, the Cubs minus 177. Really like them to get it done there. That's probably the one that I have the most confidence in. And then the Dodgers at minus 315. You can parlay both of these together on DraftKings for plus 107, which I actually think is pretty decent value, assuming that the Cubs and the Dodgers get it done. Live dogs, really like all 3 of these bets in order. the Cincinnati Reds plus 113 on the series, Cleveland plus 110, and the White Sox at plus 100. John, your favorite bets from the wild card round, whether it's an underdog, a favorite, whatever you have in mind. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think the Cubs have got that series pretty handily. I like that line for sure. I kind of like the Cardinals line here for an underdog pick. Like we just talked about with the Padres, there are a lot more question marks than this line shows. So I think as well as the Reds, White Sox, and Indians, I think the Cardinals would be a great value pick.
All right. There you go. The wild card round in the books, man. Looking forward to it. Let's look a little bit forward, though. The World Series. Who do we have as of now? And I mentioned this in the past week on the show with Scott that I like the Indians and the Dodgers, which might sound... I think the American League is wide open. I really do. I think, Tampa Bay, as much as you love the pitching, you worry a little bit about their hitting. They have no Austin Meadows, obviously. Cleveland has fantastic pitching. Obviously, the Yankees are always going... if they get past Cleveland, then obviously, they're going to be live there. But the White Sox, I think, have an opportunity there as well. I looked at the past 5 World Series winners, John, and they basically all have a ton of balance outside of the Kansas City Royals. The Royals back in, it would have been 2015, I believe it was, 2016, whenever they beat the Mets. They had a 4.34 ERA, which is 22nd in the league, and they were 11th in weighted on base average. They just had a fantastic bullpen. So that was really the one outlier. But outside of them, the Nationals, the Red Sox, the Astros, the Cubs, the previous 4 World Series winners were all top 8 in both starting pitcher ERA and in weighted on base average. So I think you are really looking at teams that have a lot of balance this year. And of course, the Dodgers are second in the league in weighted on base average, first in ERA, and it's not close. The Padres are 4th and 7th in both of those. A little bit more worried about them now, obviously. And then the White Sox are 8th and 6th. I am going with the Indians and the Dodgers in the World Series. I'll take the Dodgers to win it overall. But John, pre-wild card round, who are you looking for here as your World Series pick, and who do you think actually wins it all?
Yeah, so I had the Dodgers winning it all before this season, and I'm going to stick with the Dodgers to win it all now. Very chalky, I know, but this Dodgers team has been there the last 3-4 years. If it weren't for a few banging trash cans and sign stealing, they could have a World Series already. Also, I think without fans in the stadium, a neutral field, that benefits these favorites a lot more, especially the heavy favorites like the Dodgers. There's a lot less noise, and I don't literally mean like the noise by the fans. I mean noise in the model for those statisticians out there. But I got the Rays on the other side. I think the Rays have that perfect combination of hitting and pitching, like you said. The numbers might not necessarily show it, but I think they've got the starting rotation with Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Charlie Morton. They've got the top 3 to make it to the World Series there. And I think they've got the great bullpen and a lineup that can hit when they need to. But I'm still going to take the Dodgers over the Rays in the World Series.
Yeah, we got chalky picks. It's hard to bet against the Dodgers. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And if I'm looking at some future bets, these odds come according to William Hill. The Dodgers at plus 350. It's chalk, but get them now at that value because every round that they advance, that number is just going to decrease more and more. So the Dodgers at plus 350, they're my favorite to win it all. I actually would put money down on the Dodgers there. But if you do just want some long shot bets, the Cincinnati Reds. If you're going to bet the Cincinnati Reds to win the National League, just bet on them to win it all because you get them at plus 3,000 odds to win the World Series. It's plus 1,400 to win the National League. If they get past the Dodgers, there is a good chance that the Cincinnati Reds will win the World Series. So I'll just take the value at plus 3,000. Not throw a bunch on it, but I think given that rotation that they have, and if the lineup actually shows up, they do have a lot of talent in that lineup, the Cincinnati Reds, and also the Chicago White Sox. If I'm just looking at a few teams to win the American League outright, I like the White Sox at plus 700 and the Cleveland Indians at plus 750 as well. John, anyone stand out in terms of some long shot bets in order, whether it's to win the American League, the National League, the World Series, outside of your obvious Dodgers and Rays picks?
Yeah, so using our model, the model that we use for MLB, our sim percentage, we only have value on 2 teams, both in the National League. One's the Dodgers. We actually have them winning in 35.89% of sims out of 10,000 simulations, which is a ridiculous number, but this team is that good. So, and they would honestly be much higher if there wasn't a 3-game play-in series as well. So, and then the next team that has good value, slight good value, is the Braves. They're actually projected to win in 9.62% of sims when their World Series odds are plus 1,100, which is implied odds of 8.3%. So we have a little over a percentage point of value there.
Awesome stuff there. So they like the Braves. It's interesting. All right. Well, look, no matter who you ask, whether it's the model, whether it's John, whether it's me, it's the Dodgers or bust. But give you a few long shots there as well that I think can make some noise here in the postseason. Anything can happen, man. We're seeing it in the NBA Finals as well, right? Like the Miami Heat. Who had the 5th seed Miami Heat making it to the NBA Finals right now? So anything can happen this time of year, but I do think it is the Dodgers' World Series to lose. They just need to show up and perform, which has been their biggest issue this time of year. Specifically, Clayton Kershaw, I am looking at you. John Bowman, thank you so much. Again, follow him on Twitter at JBowman11. Appreciate having you on the show here, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Frank. I had a great time.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And maybe we'll do this, as the rounds update, maybe we'll do it before the ALDS and the NLDS, see how odds have changed a little bit. I'll talk to my people and see what I can string together here. For John, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today on our YouTube channel. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.